When you pass the age of 70, something very interesting begins to happen inside the body. You might notice that you're eating the same way you did 10 or 20 years ago, but your muscles don't feel the same. You lose strength more easily, your recovery slows down, and your energy seems to fade. This isn't just getting older. The way many people think, it's actually a very specific biological shift called anabolic resistance. And this is a critical concept most people over 70 have never even heard about, yet it could explain why they're struggling with weakness, frailty, and even a loss of independence. Anabolic resistance simply means that your muscles stop responding to protein in the same way they once did. Think of protein as the raw material for building a house. In your 30s or 40s, every brick of protein you ate went right into constructing strong, solid walls of muscle. But after 70, it's like your construction workers are sluggish and distracted. They ignore some of the bricks, leave piles of them unused, and the walls aren't being repaired at the same pace. You're still eating protein, maybe even a good amount of it, but your body just doesn't activate muscle growth as efficiently. This is why two people can eat the same meal, one at age 40 and one at age 70. Yet the results on muscle health are completely different. Here's the hook: this doesn't mean you can't build muscle after 70. In fact, many seniors are now proving that they can reverse muscle loss, get stronger, and regain vitality. But it requires a new strategy. And it all starts with understanding that after 70, it's not just about how much protein you eat, but whether your body can use it. The problem with anabolic resistance is that it quietly creeps in. You might notice your legs getting weaker when you climb stairs, or that it's harder to carry groceries. You may even notice your posture starting to change, or that your balance isn't what it used to be. Most people dismiss these as normal aging, but they are actually early warning signs that your muscles aren't responding to protein and exercise the way they should. What's really happening is that the muscle fibers are losing sensitivity to the key amino acids that stimulate repair and growth. Imagine having a light switch in a room that used to turn on the lights instantly. But over time, the switch gets rusty, and now you have to flip it harder and harder just to get a dim glow. That's exactly what happens to your muscles' response to protein. It requires a much stronger signal to activate growth. Science shows that after 70, the threshold of protein needed to trigger muscle synthesis is higher. In other words, what used to work before isn't strong enough now. If you ate a couple of eggs in your 40s, your muscles would quickly get to work rebuilding and repairing. But now you may need not just more protein, but a better quality of protein, one that delivers the exact amino acids in the right form to break through that anabolic resistance. Without this, your muscles gradually shrink, your metabolism slows, and you increase your risk of falls, fractures, and even metabolic conditions. But here's where it gets fascinating. While anabolic resistance sounds like a barrier, the body is actually very adaptable. You can think of it as a muscle that has gotten lazy, but if you give it the right kind of stimulation, it wakes back up. Studies have shown that seniors who consume higher leucine proteins and engage in resistance training can overcome anabolic resistance and build muscle nearly as effectively as younger individuals. That means your body is not broken. It just needs the right push. This is where diet becomes more powerful than most people realize. Too many seniors assume that because they're eating chicken, fish, or eggs, they're covered. But not all proteins are created equal, and not all of them have the ability to push past that higher threshold needed after 70. You need proteins rich in leucine and other branched chain amino acids that directly flip the switch for muscle protein synthesis. Without enough leucine, it's like trying to start a car without turning the key. You might have plenty of fuel, but the engine won't run. Another hidden factor in anabolic resistance is digestion. As we age, our stomach acid often weakens, and enzymes that break down protein become less efficient. This means even if you're eating protein, you may not be breaking it down fully into usable amino acids. So, when people say, "I'm eating enough, but I'm still losing strength," the real issue may be poor absorption. That's why choosing more digestible proteins and even fermented sources can make a dramatic difference. They don't just provide the building blocks, they deliver them in a form your body can actually process and use. Now, I want you to think about the implications of this. Muscle is not just about looking toned, it's your reserve of health. A muscle store glucose, protect your bones, stabilize your joints, and give you balance. When you lose muscle, you don't just lose strength. You lose protection against diabetes, osteoporosis, and even heart disease. Muscle is longevity, and anabolic resistance is the silent thief trying to take it away from you. The good news is you can fight back. Imagine this scenario. A 72-year-old man decides to start adjusting his protein intake to focus on more leucine-rich sources and adds light resistance training twice a week. Within months, he notices his legs feel stronger when he gets up from a chair. His stamina improves when walking, and he no longer fears climbing stairs. That's not theory. That's been proven repeatedly in clinical studies. The moment you supply the body with the right tools, it responds no matter what age you are. But here's the mistake I see too often. Many seniors don't even know anabolic resistance exists, so they never address it. They keep eating the same meals they always have, wondering why their strength fades, and they assume it's just normal aging. Let me tell you, losing muscle is common, but it's not normal. It's a condition you can reverse. You have far more control than you think. So the key takeaway is this: after 70, your body is not as responsive to protein as it once was, but that doesn't mean you can't build muscle. It means you need to be strategic. Higher quality protein, better digestion, and resistance exercise together create the signal your muscles are waiting for. If you don't send that signal, they'll continue to atrophy. But if you do, they'll respond in ways that can truly transform your energy, your independence, and your health. Most people believe that when it comes to building muscle, nothing beats eggs. For decades, eggs have been promoted as the gold standard of protein, and for good reason. They contain all the essential amino acids, they're inexpensive, and they're easy to prepare. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. While eggs are excellent, they're not the ultimate. In fact, if you're over the age of 70 and dealing with muscle loss, there are other proteins that can outperform eggs in triggering muscle growth. And this is where most people get it wrong. They assume that eating eggs daily will protect them from age-related muscle decline. Yet they still notice their legs weakening, their arms losing tone, and their recovery slowing down. Why is that happening if eggs are supposed to be perfect? The answer lies in understanding the difference between a good protein and the right protein for your age. Here's the hook: when you're in your 20s, 30s, or even 40s, almost any complete protein will do the job because your muscles are extremely sensitive to amino acids. They respond quickly. But when you reach 70, your muscles don't respond the same way. They become stubborn. They need a much stronger signal to activate growth. And while eggs provide high quality protein, they don't always deliver enough of the ignition key, amino acids needed to flip that switch in older adults. That's why some people can eat eggs every day and still struggle to maintain muscle. The food isn't bad, the body's requirements have changed. One of the most overlooked truths about protein is that it's not just about quantity, it's about the amino acid profile. Eggs have an excellent balance, but the amino acid leucine is what truly drives muscle protein synthesis. Think of leucine as the spark that starts a fire. Without enough of it, you can pile up all the wood you want. Nothing burns. After 70, the leucine threshold is higher. Your muscles need more of it to wake up and start rebuilding. Eggs give you some leucine, but certain foods actually provide more, and in a more bioavailable form, which can make a dramatic difference in whether your muscles grow or shrink. Another point to consider is digestion and absorption. Their eggs are easy to digest for most people, but not for everyone. As the body ages, digestive capacity declines. Some people don't fully break down egg protein, meaning they aren't getting the complete benefit from what they eat. When proteins pass through the gut without proper breakdown, the muscles can't use them effectively. This is another reason why some people notice they're still losing strength despite eating high-quality protein like eggs. Let me give you a scenario. Imagine two people, both 72 years old. One relies solely on eggs for their daily protein, thinking that's enough. The other includes eggs, but also adds in proteins richer in leucine and more digestible due to fermentation. 6 months later, the first person is frustrated, noticing little to no improvement in strength. The second person, however, is climbing stairs with more ease. Their legs feel firmer, and their energy is noticeably higher. The difference isn't that one ate protein and the other didn't. It's that one had the right type of protein to push through anabolic resistance. This is why eggs, though excellent, aren't the ultimate choice past 70. They're a solid baseline, but not the end all. For younger adults, eggs might be enough. For seniors, the body needs a stronger stimulus, and this is where specific beans, fish, or fermented protein sources come into play. They provide that extra leucine, that extra digestibility, that extra push the body needs. And let's not forget the hormonal changes that come with age. Growth hormone and testosterone naturally decline, both of which play a major role in muscle health. That means the same protein that used to be effective in your youth simply doesn't deliver the same result anymore. This hormonal shift makes the choice of protein even more important. If you continue eating as you always did, you'll continue getting diminishing returns. But if you strategically upgrade your protein sources, you can counteract those hormonal changes and keep your muscles responsive. What makes this even more interesting is that the research now shows plant-based proteins, when carefully chosen, can sometimes outperform animal proteins for seniors. This doesn't mean you need to give up animal products. It means the old assumption that animal proteins are always superior is not universally true. Certain beans, especially when fermented, can trigger a stronger muscle building response than eggs because they provide the higher leucine content and better digestibility that older muscles desperately need. Now, why does this matter so much? Because muscle is directly tied to longevity. If you lose too much muscle, your risk of falls, fractures, frailty, and even hospitalization skyrockets. Muscle is not just for strength, it's your metabolic reserve. It helps regulate blood sugar, supports your joints, and even influences your brain health. The food you choose today determines whether you'll be able to walk independently, climb stairs, or carry your groceries 5 years from now. So when I say eggs aren't the ultimate, it's not to downplay their value. It's to wake you up to the reality that you need to be more strategic after 70. Imagine being able to add a simple change in your diet that suddenly makes your body more responsive to protein again. Instead of eating more and more eggs without much benefit, you could add a specific bean or fermented protein source that works synergistically with your body's new requirements. That's the difference between spinning your wheels and actually seeing results. Here's another hook. Many people in their 70s and 80s believe that muscle loss is inevitable. They think, well, I'm just getting old. But that's not the case. It's not inevitable. It's nutritional. It's not about age. It's about giving your body the right tools. The research is clear. If you supply the right amino acids in the right form, the body can and will build muscle even at 80, 90, or beyond. But you can't keep relying on the same proteins that worked in your youth and expect the same results. So while eggs are still valuable, they're no longer the top of the mountain when it comes to protecting muscle after 70. Think of them as part of the foundation, but not the whole structure. To build strength, preserve independence, and protect your longevity, you need to combine eggs with proteins that surpass them in their ability to break through anabolic resistance. That's the shift, and once you make it, you'll notice your body responding again. When people think of protein, they usually think of meat, chicken, fish, or eggs. But rarely does anyone imagine that a simple bean could outcompete those animal sources in building muscle after 70. But the truth is, there's one bean in particular that can do exactly that. It's the soybean, but not just any soybean. I'm talking about its fermented forms like tempeh or natto. These aren't your typical beans. They're nutritional powerhouses that, for someone past 70, can actually work better than eggs when it comes to muscle growth and protection from sarcopenia. And this is where many people miss out, because they've been conditioned to think animal protein is always superior. The research shows otherwise, and when you understand why, you'll see just how powerful this humble bean really is. Here's the hook. Imagine being able to eat a food that not only supplies more muscle, building amino acids than eggs, but also improves your digestion, protects your joints, and supports your hormones all at the same time. That's what fermented soybeans can do, and most people have no idea they exist or how transformative they can be. The key reason fermented soybeans can outperform eggs is because of an amino acid called leucine. Leucine is like the ignition switch for your muscle. Without it, your muscle protein synthesis doesn't turn on no matter how much protein you eat. It's not just about having the bricks, it's about having the foreman who gives the order to start building. And leucine is that foreman. Eggs contain leucine, yes, but soybeans, especially when fermented, contain higher amounts in a form that's easier for older adults to utilize. That means if you're 70 or older, eating this bean could trigger your muscle building machinery far more effectively than relying only on eggs. Another thing to consider is digestibility. At 70, digestion doesn't work the way it did at 30. Stomach acid production often decreases, enzymes are weaker, and proteins are harder to break down into usable amino acids. This is a major reason why many older adults complain of bloating, indigestion, or simply not feeling good after eating heavy protein. Fermented soybeans solve this problem because fermentation doesn't work for you. It treats, digests the protein, breaking it down into smaller, more bioavailable amino acids. That means when you eat tempeh or natto, your body doesn't have to struggle. The protein is practically ready to go straight to your muscles. Let's put this into perspective. If a 72-year-old eats 2 eggs, they're getting high-quality protein, but their body may not fully absorb or utilize it due to anabolic resistance. If that same person eats a serving of fermented soybeans, they're not only getting more leucine, but they're also getting it in a form that slips past digestive hurdles and lands directly where it needs to go. The difference in how the body responds can be dramatic. Over time, that difference shows up as stronger legs, firmer muscles, and a reduced risk of falls. But the benefits don't stop with muscle. Fermented soybeans are rich in compounds called isoflavones. These plant-based nutrients help balance hormones, especially estrogen, which can decline with age and contribute to weaker bones and muscles. Isoflavones also reduce inflammation, which is one of the biggest hidden enemies of muscle preservation after 70. Chronic inflammation not only weakens muscle but also damages joints, making movement painful and discouraging physical activity. By lowering inflammation, this bean indirectly encourages more activity, which further amplifies muscle protection. And then there's something even more fascinating, vitamin K2. Natto, one of the fermented forms of soybeans, is the richest natural source of vitamin K2 in the world. Why does that matter for muscle? Because K2 directs calcium into your bones instead of your arteries. Stronger bones provide the foundation for stronger muscles. If your bones are fragile, your muscles can't function properly, and you increase your risk of fractures. That's why people in Japan, where natto is commonly eaten, have lower rates of osteoporosis and fractures compared to other populations. For someone over 70, That's not just interesting, it's life-changing. Let's create a picture. Imagine a woman in her mid-70s who has been eating eggs every morning for years. She's healthy, but she notices her legs aren't as strong as they used to be. She adds tempeh to her meals 3 times a week. After a few months, she notices something remarkable. Climbing stairs doesn't feel as hard, her posture improves, and her balance stabilizes. The scale may not change, but the composition of her body does. More lean muscle, less fat, and stronger bones. This is the practical effect of switching from good protein to the right protein for her stage of life. Now, many people hesitate when they hear the word soy because they've been told it's harmful or estrogenic. But that's a misunderstanding, and here's why. The problems with soy come from highly processed, non-fermented soy products like soy protein isolates or soy oils found in junk food. Those forms aren't natural and can cause issues. But fermented soy, like natto or tempeh, is an entirely different food. The fermentation process transforms it into a nutrient-dense, gut-friendly, hormone-supportive powerhouse. It's not just safe, it's one of the healthiest foods you could eat after 70. Think about this, you could spend a lot of money on protein powders, supplements, or meat and still not get the same results as simply adding a serving of fermented soybeans to your diet. It's inexpensive, accessible, and has centuries of tradition behind it in Asian cultures that have long enjoyed its health benefits. Yet in the West, it's still relatively unknown, which means most seniors are missing out on a simple, powerful tool for muscle health. Here's another hook: muscle loss is not just a physical problem. It's a quality of life problem. When you lose muscle, you lose independence. It becomes harder to travel, to play with your grandchildren, to take care of yourself. But with the right nutrition, like adding this one bean, you can reclaim strength that many people think is gone forever. That's not just about food, it's about freedom. So, when comparing eggs to beans, the question isn't which one is good or bad. Eggs are great. But for someone over 70, the fermented soybean isn't just another option, it's the smarter option. It's the one that addresses anabolic resistance head-on, supports digestion, reduces inflammation, strengthens bones, and flips on the muscle-building switch more effectively. That's what makes this bean better than eggs in this stage of life. Most people think that when you eat protein, your body simply digests it, breaks it down into amino acids, and sends those building blocks to your muscles. But the truth is, digestion becomes a very different story after you reach 70. Your stomach acid isn't as strong as it once was. Your digestive enzymes decline, and your gut lining may not absorb nutrients as efficiently. This means that even if you're eating the right foods, your body may not be extracting all the protein you need to actually build muscle. And here's where the fermented soybean becomes a game changer, because fermentation doesn't just enhance the nutrition of the bean, it pre-digests it for you. It transforms a food that would normally be harder to digest into something that's incredibly bioavailable. Meaning your muscles get the amino acids they need without your digestive system having to work overtime. Here's the hook: think of it like hiring someone to chop wood for you. Normally, your body has to break down protein into tiny pieces before it can use it. But with fermented soybeans, the chopping is already done. You're left with fuel that's ready to burn immediately. For someone over 70, this can mean the difference between protein that passes through your system unused and protein that actually triggers muscle repair and growth. When soybeans go through fermentation, beneficial bacteria and enzymes break down complex proteins into smaller peptides and free amino acids. This is crucial because older adults often lack the stomach acid necessary to unfold and digest dense proteins like meat or even eggs. Fermented soy doesn't ask your stomach to work as hard. It delivers nutrition that's essentially pre-packaged for absorption. This is why people who add foods like natto or tempeh to their diets often notice improvements, not just in muscle strength, but also in digestion, energy levels, and overall vitality. Their bodies are finally getting access to nutrients that were locked away before. Another fascinating part of fermentation is that it reduces compounds called anti-nutrients. Soybeans in their raw form contain phytates and other compounds that can block the absorption of important minerals like zinc, calcium, and iron. For a younger person with robust digestion, this isn't much of a problem. But for someone at 70 or beyond, mineral absorption is already compromised. By fermenting the beans, those anti-nutrients are broken down, freeing up minerals that your body desperately needs for bone health, energy production, and muscle contraction. This means fermented soy isn't just about protein, it's about delivering a full spectrum of nutrients in a form your body can actually use. Imagine this scenario: you've been eating lean meat and eggs for years, thinking you're fueling your body properly, but you still notice weakness creeping in. Then you introduce fermented soy into your diet. Within weeks, you feel less bloated, your digestion improves, and your muscles start to feel more responsive. What changed? It's not that you suddenly ate more protein, it's that you finally ate protein your body could actually access. That's the hidden power of fermentation. And let's talk about another layer of benefit, your gut microbiome. After 70, your gut bacteria often become imbalanced, partly due to medications, lower stomach acid, and changes in diet. This imbalance can increase inflammation, weaken immunity, and slow down nutrient absorption. Fermented foods like natto and tempeh are naturally rich in probiotics, the beneficial bacteria that help restore balance to your gut. When your gut is healthier, your entire body benefits. Nutrients get absorbed better, inflammation decreases, and your muscles get more of the raw material they need to stay strong. It's like fixing the soil before planting a crop. Suddenly, growth becomes easier and more robust. Here's a hook that's worth paying attention to. The majority of older adults don't actually have a protein intake problem. They have a protein utilization problem. They're eating enough, but their body isn't converting that food into usable muscle tissue. This is why sarcopenia progresses even in people who are trying to eat healthy. Fermentation solves this by taking the pressure off digestion and handing your body amino acids in a ready-to-use package. But fermentation does more than just make protein digestible. It also produces unique bioactive compounds that aren't present in the raw bean. These compounds can regulate blood sugar, lower cholesterol, and reduce systemic inflammation. And this matters because high blood sugar and chronic inflammation are two of the biggest drivers of muscle breakdown as you age. If your body is constantly inflamed, your muscles are being broken down faster than they're being built. By eating fermented soy, you're not only supplying the building blocks for muscle, you're creating an environment where muscle can actually thrive. Now, think about the way most seniors approach protein. They focus on quantity. They think, I'll just eat more chicken, more eggs, more protein shakes. But if your digestion can't keep up, eating more doesn't solve the problem. It actually makes things worse, causing bloating, indigestion, and wasted nutrients. The smarter approach is to focus on quality and digestibility. Though one serving of fermented soy can deliver more usable protein to your muscles than 2 servings of a protein your body can't fully break down. It's not about stuffing your system. It's about giving your body exactly what it can use. Picture this, a 75-year-old man who struggles with weakness in his legs. He eats eggs every morning, but he notices no improvement. Then he begins incorporating a serving of tempeh at lunch 3 times a week. Slowly, his digestion feels lighter. He no longer has that heavy, sluggish feeling after meals, and within months, his muscle strength improves. He didn't add more calories, or he didn't double his protein intake. He simply changed the form of protein to one his body could finally absorb. That's the silent advantage of fermentation. One of the most overlooked aspects of health after 70 is efficiency. Your body can't afford to waste resources. Every calorie you eat has to deliver the maximum benefit. Fermented soybeans are efficient. They're a concentrated, digestible, nutrient-packed source of fuel that doesn't burden your system. That's why populations who consume fermented soy regularly, like the Japanese, are known for their longevity and vitality well into old age. It's not just cultural, it's biological. Their bodies are getting more usable nutrition from their food. Here's one more hook when people ask me why they keep losing strength despite eating healthy. My answer is often that they're eating the right foods for their 40-year-old body, not their 70-year-old body. At 70, the rules change. Your body isn't as forgiving. You have to be smarter with your choices. Fermentation is one of the smartest nutritional hacks you can apply, because it bridges the gap between what your body needs and what it can actually process. So while many people overlook this simple bean, the science is very clear. Fermentation makes soy not only more digestible, but also more powerful. It creates a food that delivers amino acids directly, improves gut health, reduces inflammation, and frees up minerals that otherwise would have been blocked. For someone over 70, that's not just helpful, that's essential. When most people think about protein, they only think about muscle, or they imagine bigger biceps, firmer legs, or the ability to walk without feeling weak. And while those are certainly important, what they don't realize is that the right protein source can deliver far more benefits than just building muscle. Some foods carry additional compounds that go beyond amino acids. They work on your joints, your hormones, your inflammation levels, and even your bone health. This is where fermented soybeans really stand out because they don't just give you protein, they deliver a package of extra benefits that eggs and many other protein sources simply can't match. And if you're over 70, these extra benefits are not optional. They're the difference between thriving in your later years or slowly losing your independence. Here's the hook. Imagine eating a protein that strengthens your muscles, reduces the stiffness in your joints, balances your hormones, and lowers the inflammation that accelerates aging, all in one serving. That's the hidden power of fermented soy, and it's why cultures that consume it regularly show lower rates of chronic disease and maintain mobility well into advanced age. One of the biggest problems people face after 70 is chronic inflammation. It's silent, it's progressive, and it affects nearly every part of the body. It doesn't just cause joint pain, it breaks down muscle, damages blood vessels, and accelerates aging at the cellular level. Inflammation is like rust eating away at your car. Even if you're fueling it properly, the rust is still breaking down the structure. This is where fermented soy provides a double advantage. Not only does it supply the leucine and other amino acids your muscles need, but it also delivers anti-inflammatory compounds called isoflavones. Isoflavones help block inflammatory pathways in the body, calming down the overactive immune responses that can eat away at muscle tissue. So while eggs may provide protein, they don't deliver that additional anti-inflammatory effect. Fermented soy does. Hormone balance is another critical area where this food shines. After 70, both men and women experience significant hormonal shifts. Testosterone, estrogen, and growth hormone decline sharply, and that drop makes it harder to maintain muscle, bone, and energy. Isoflavones in fermented soy act as natural phytoestrogens, but here's the important part. They don't flood your system with hormones. Instead, they help balance your body's receptors. For women, they can gently support declining estrogen, which protects bone density and reduces hot flashes. For men, they don't act like estrogen in the way many fear. Instead, they can block the more harmful forms of estrogen while supporting overall hormonal balance. In short, they help smooth out the hormonal turbulence of aging, making it easier to preserve strength and vitality. And then there's joint protection. As you age, it's not just your muscles that weaken. Cartilage thins, synovial fluid dries out, and inflammation eats away at your joints. This is one of the biggest reasons why seniors stop exercising. They're simply in pain. But exercise is the very thing that keeps muscles strong. It becomes a vicious cycle. Weak joints discourage movement, lack of movement causes more weakness, and the decline accelerates. Fermented soy can interrupt that cycle. Its compounds don't just fight inflammation, they improve blood flow, reduce oxidative stress, and supply nutrients that protect the joint tissues themselves. That means less stiffness, more mobility, and greater freedom to keep moving and exercising. And remember, exercise is the partner of protein in rebuilding muscle. Without it, even the best diet won't reach its full potential. Another extraordinary benefit of fermented soy is its impact on cardiovascular health. At 70 and beyond, heart health becomes one of the top concerns. Elevated cholesterol, stiff arteries, and high blood pressure put enormous strain on the body. Isoflavones and other compounds in fermented soy help relax blood vessels, lower LDL cholesterol, and improve arterial flexibility. Why does this matter for muscle? Because blood flow is everything. Your muscles can't grow, repair, or function if they're not getting proper circulation. By improving vascular health, fermented soy indirectly strengthens your muscles by making sure the nutrients you eat are actually delivered to the tissues that need them. Let's not forget bone health either. Strong muscles are built on strong bones. If your bones are weak, your muscles don't have a foundation to work against. This is why osteoporosis and sarcopenia often go hand in hand. Natto, a fermented soybean product, is the richest source of vitamin K2 on the planet. Vitamin K2 plays a critical role in directing calcium to your bones and keeping it out of your arteries. Without K2, calcium often ends up in the wrong places, leading to stiff arteries and weak bones. With K2, calcium strengthens your skeleton, giving your muscles a firm base to pull against. This is one reason why Japanese populations that eat natto regularly have lower rates of fractures and better bone density as they age. For someone over 70, this means fewer falls, fewer breaks, and more independence. Here's a scenario that brings this all together. Imagine a 74-year-old woman who eats eggs every morning for protein. Her muscles are stable, but she still experiences knee pain, her bone density is declining, and her doctor is concerned about her cholesterol. Now imagine she adds a few servings of fermented soy into her diet each week. After a few months, she notices her knees aren't as stiff, her balance improves, and her cholesterol numbers look better. What changed? It wasn't just the protein. It was the additional compounds, the isoflavones, the vitamin K2, the probiotics, that worked on areas of her body eggs could never touch. That's the difference between a food that only provides fuel and a food that provides healing. Think of it this way, protein is essential, but if your joints hurt, if your hormones are unbalanced, if your bones are brittle, and if your blood vessels are stiff, what good is muscle? What you need is a food that checks all the boxes at once. Fermented soy does exactly that. It's not just a muscle food, it's a whole body longevity food. And here's another hook to remember: aging doesn't just happen in your muscles or your bones or your joints. It happens everywhere all at once. That's why the smartest approach isn't to fix one system at a time. It's to eat in a way that supports them all simultaneously. Fermented soy is one of the rare foods that can do this. It doesn't just add protein to your plate. It calms inflammation, balances hormones, strengthens bones, improves arteries, and protects joints. That's why it outshines eggs for someone over 70. Eggs are excellent, but they're a single note instrument. Fermented soy is an orchestra, playing multiple tunes of health at once. The truth is, after 70, your body doesn't need more complication. It needs simplicity. It needs foods that deliver the maximum benefits in the smallest package. Fermented soybeans are just that: compact, powerful, and comprehensive. They meet your protein needs, but they also address the very issues that are holding back your quality of life: inflammation, joint pain, bone loss, and hormone decline. That's why this bean is so much more than just food. It's a strategy, a tool, and for many people, the missing link in their quest for strength and vitality in their later years. If there's one thing that makes fermented soybeans truly remarkable for someone over 70, it's not just their nutrition profile, not just the protein, and not just the extra compounds like vitamin K2 or isoflavones. It's the fact that your body can actually use it. This is where so many protein sources fall short, especially as we age. Because after 70, digestion is no longer the same as it was in your 30s or 40s. Stomach acid levels drop, enzyme production slows down, and the gut lining becomes less efficient at pulling nutrients out of food. That means even if you eat protein-rich foods, you may not be absorbing them effectively. And that's a huge problem. Protein that isn't broken down into usable amino acids is wasted. It doesn't go toward your muscles, your joints, or your bones. It either passes through or feeds the wrong kind of bacteria in your gut. This is where fermented soy creates a massive advantage over eggs and other traditional protein foods, because fermentation pre-digests the protein, making it far easier for your body to absorb and utilize. Think about it this way: when you eat an egg, your stomach has to break down that protein into amino acids before it can be absorbed. That requires strong stomach acid, healthy enzyme production, and a fully functioning gut lining. But many people over 70 are deficient in stomach acid, often due to aging itself or from years of taking acid-blocking medications. So what happens? The protein isn't broken down fully, and instead of being absorbed, it ferments in the gut, creating gas, bloating, and discomfort. The very food you're eating to strengthen your muscles could end up working against your digestive system. But with fermented soybeans, much of that work is already done for you. Beneficial bacteria have broken down complex proteins, carbohydrates, and even antinutrients like phytic acid, leaving a food that is not only higher in bioavailable amino acids, but also far gentler on the digestive system. It's like having your protein chewed for you by nature. This makes a huge difference for seniors who often struggle with appetite. Over 70, you may not feel as hungry as you used to. Your meals may be smaller, and you simply can't eat as much volume. That means every bite counts. If you're eating protein that isn't fully absorbed, you're leaving your body shortchanged. You think you're getting 20 grams, but maybe you're only absorbing 10. That can be the difference between maintaining muscle or losing it month after month. Fermented soy solves this issue by delivering highly bioavailable protein in smaller, more digestible servings. You eat less, but you get more out of it. For someone who doesn't want to spend their later years forcing down heavy meals, that's a game changer. Another key aspect is how fermentation adds probiotics to the food. And these probiotics aren't just passengers. They actively support your digestive system. They help break down food, crowd out harmful bacteria, and enhance nutrient absorption. That means when you pair fermented soy with other foods, you may actually improve the absorption of nutrients across the board, not just protein. Imagine eating fermented soy with vegetables. You won't just get protein, you'll also absorb more minerals and vitamins from the vegetables because your gut bacteria are in better balance. This synergy is something eggs can't provide. Eggs give you nutrition, but they don't enhance your digestion or absorption of other foods. Fermented soy does. Here's a hook that puts this into perspective. The problem after 70 isn't always what you eat. It's what your body can use. You can eat the cleanest, most nutrient-dense diet in the world, but if your gut isn't absorbing those nutrients, you'll still be deficient. And deficiencies are what accelerate aging. Muscle loss, brittle bones, weak joints, low energy. These are often not just from lack of food, but from lack of absorption. Fermented soy acts like a bridge over that gap, ensuring that your effort to eat well actually pays off. Another fascinating benefit of the fermentation process is the reduction of antinutrients. Beans in their raw form contain compounds like lectins and phytic acid that can block mineral absorption and irritate the digestive tract. This is one reason why many people feel bloated after eating beans. But when soybeans are fermented, those antinutrients are dramatically reduced or even eliminated. That means minerals like magnesium, calcium, and zinc are more available for your body to use. And remember, these minerals are essential not just for muscles, but also for nerve function, heart rhythm, and bone strength. Again, eggs don't come with this built-in advantage. They're a clean protein, yes, but they don't enhance your mineral absorption or make life easier on your gut. Let me share a scenario. Picture a 76-year-old man who eats a high-protein diet, but he still notices his muscles are shrinking and his energy is dropping. He feels bloated after meals, and his doctor tells him he's low in magnesium and vitamin D, despite eating foods rich in them. Why is this happening? His digestive system isn't absorbing what he's eating. But now imagine he switches part of his protein intake to fermented soy. Within weeks, the bloating decreases, he feels lighter, and his muscle mass starts to stabilize. Not because he suddenly doubled his protein intake, but because his body is finally able to use the protein he's eating. That's the real magic, absorption over consumption. And this principle ties into a deeper truth about aging. It's not how much you eat, it's how much you absorb. Younger people can get away with sloppy digestion because their bodies are resilient. But over 70, every inefficiency in digestion compounds. Malabsorption means faster muscle loss, weaker bones, and slower recovery. This is why fermented soy stands out as one of the smartest protein sources. It works with the challenges of aging rather than against them. Another angle that's often overlooked is how fermented soy supports the microbiome. The gut microbiome is like a control center for your entire body. It influences immunity, inflammation, the brain health, and even mood. As we age, diversity in the microbiome tends to shrink and harmful bacteria can take over. Fermented foods help restore that balance. So while you're eating fermented soy for its protein, you're also seeding your gut with beneficial bacteria that will continue to improve digestion and absorption long after the meal is over. It's like investing in your gut health while feeding your muscles at the same time. Now, here's something to really think about. Eggs give you protein and nutrients in the moment, but fermented soy changes the way your gut works over time. It leaves a lasting effect. Every serving trains your digestion to work better, to absorb more, and to become more efficient. That means the benefits multiply over time rather than just being a one and done boost. This is the kind of long-term leverage you need after 70, when your body is fighting to hold on to every ounce of strength. So when you compare eggs to fermented soybeans, it's not just about grams of protein. It's about usability, digestibility, and the ripple effects throughout your body. Eggs give you a strong starting point, but fermented soy you across the finish line by making sure the nutrition actually gets to where it needs to go. And if you're someone who's struggling with appetite, digestion, or nutrient absorption, which is incredibly common after 70, this difference is not minor, it's massive. This is why I often say fermented soy is not just a food, it's a tool. It's a way of bypassing the digestive limitations of aging and ensuring that the fuel you put into your body actually translates into strength, energy, and resilience. And when you think about it, isn't that what really matters? It's not about how much you eat, it's about how much of it becomes you. That's the hidden advantage of this powerful bean, and it's why it deserves a place on the plate of anyone serious about staying strong and vibrant well into their 70s and beyond.